You asked, I answered. To celebrate 5K, I'm going to answer your questions today. Hey, that rhymed. All right, so if you are ready, let's get started. So, you guys were kind enough to ask some great questions, and I'm really excited to answer them today in this video. So, let's get started. All right, I'm going to start with my questions that I asked a couple of weeks ago, and then some of you guys are newer around here. Hi, welcome. So happy you're here. So I have two from the same person. Um, I'm not going to try to pronounce people's like screen names because I'm inevitably I'll get it wrong. But so how to balance home workout and running, and how to detach from social media. Those are really great sort of quick fire questions. So we'll start there. Balancing home workouts and running. The answer is I don't have a solution for that right now because I'm not currently doing that. I'm primarily prioritizing home workouts over running, but I'll hopefully have a better answer for that for you soon because I am running a Disney 5K here in October. And so I'm going to start my training for that. So there will definitely be vlogs and videos about that, what I'm doing, how I'm doing it. What I'm anticipating doing is pulling back to 2 to 3 day a week workouts and then doing running several of the other days. I'll probably be running 5 days a week while I'm training, but ultimately my goal is to balance the two. So I don't have a great answer for that. I'm sorry. And then how to detach from social media. I feel like this is a hard one and also one that I really struggle with myself, honestly. And I find the thing that works best for me and also the thing that works best for my clients in my office. I have a therapist. That is the thing that I do for a living besides being a parent. And I find that for most folks in my office, setting timers and reminders, or I know some people have different apps. I don't know any off the top of my head, but I feel like having apps or some sort of way of like, hey, you've been on your phone for so many hours. And I think a lot of phones have those now. I think that's a really helpful tool and strategy of like, this is the time that I can use social media, or setting a timer, just because it can be really easy to get sucked down a rabbit hole and like look up 45 minutes to an hour later and you didn't even realize you were on there for like 45 minutes to an hour. You know what I mean? And so I think that's one of the best ways to do it. The other thing too is making sure that you're not on your phone or social media at the very start of your day. I notice I'm more productive that way. My morning routine just functions better when the first thing I do is not check my email or get on social media. That just, makes me stressed out like from the jump. So I find that if I get up and I do other things first, I can use my phone. I use it for like my Bible recap or to like do my workouts, but I try to avoid, I'll say I'm not perfect. I try to avoid Instagram, YouTube notifications, stuff like that until after I've done my workout, and that helps me a lot from a anxiety standpoint as well. So great questions. Let's see, what else do I have? And then how to continue a healthy lifestyle while in a depressive episode. Wow, that's a heavy one and kind of relevant for me at the moment. So, ironically enough, this question was asked before my cat passed. So that's kind of anyway, doesn't matter. Point is, so that is a really hard thing to do. I think one of the biggest challenges I find with depression, both treating depression and dealing in like seasons of depressive things like grief and loss and things like that, is part of the problem is that you kind of need that like push to get started and actually do the thing that will make you feel better. And that's really hard to muster, right? Like, it's not even just about motivation, it's about how do I even just like get off the couch and like not just like live in this pit. And you have like next to no energy for the most part for many folks. And so, again, in the current season that I'm in, I'm kind of been experiencing that too. And I think that's really where, the pieces of habit and routine really shine, because I think if I had dealt with this even just a few years ago, pre, fitness habit and routines, I think there's a pretty strong chance I would have like fallen down into like a depressive pit, and just kind of stayed there. But because I have practiced and it's like working out is part of my routine, like taking care of myself is already part of my routine, it's easier for me to pick the pieces back up. That being said, though, I do think there is space to be sad, and like it's okay to acknowledge and be sad and accept those feelings as they are, but we just don't want to stay in that place, right? It's okay to sit with it and acknowledge it and say like, hey, yes, I'm feeling sad, but and I'm going to do it anyway. And I think that's really where like the gratitude stuff comes in, and especially again, if you're feeling depressed and things like that can be harder to come by, but really trying to focutize, is that a word? No, it's not. focus and prioritize what are the good things in my life? What are the good things I am living for? And putting your energy in that rather than in the what am I sad about? And that was, something I talked to a client about recently is like, let's find the good because yes, sure, there is absolutely bad and we're not trying to minimize the bad, but there is good. Let's find the good. Let's seek it out. Let's focus our energy and brain there because that is what's going to get us through it because sometimes seasons are just harder than others and if you have like chronic depression then certainly you want to seek a medical provider, a therapist in your area who can help you kind of come up with some strategies that work for you. But that was my long-winded advice. Sorry about that. All right, moving up to the like newer questions. Have you ever heard from Caroline Girvan? No, I don't. I don't know is really the answer to the question. A few times, and I think I have screenshots. I'll have to see if I can find them for this video. But a few times she has like DM'd me and said like congratulations on finishing a program or doing a good workout, stuff like that. But that could very well be her like Instagram team. I don't know if she has. I would assume based on her size, she probably has a team who runs her Instagram account. But I think earlier on, like there was a time where she was responding to comments herself. And so, yes, maybe, but like we've never had a conversation. I would love that. That would be so cool. Funny enough, my husband, his trainer is also from Ireland, and a similar part of Ireland. And I was like teasing him. I was like, come on, you gotta like this island cannot be that big. Like you gotta know, like you gotta be able to give me the tea on her. Like how can I meet her? Of course, I would never bother her like that. This is not who I am. If you ever heard my story about Miley Cyrus, I had the opportunity to meet Miley Cyrus and like I waved at her, but like I wouldn't go up and talk to her because she was with her friends and I didn't want to bother her. Like that's just who I am. But so no, I don't know is really the question. I would love to. I mean, like she is my like ride or die, like for real. So okay. Do you ever struggle with binge eating or overeating beyond allowed indulgence? I mean, I have some videos about this, so you've probably seen that before. I used to struggle with binge eating and overeating. Um, but one of the things that I have found, most useful for me from a strategy standpoint is really the mindset of allowing all the foods. When I put foods off limits, and I think this kind of just goes against our very nature as human beings, and I think that's why so many struggle with it. When we label foods as good or bad, or we tell ourselves we can't have something, it makes it that much more appealing or that much more likely that we're going to binge on it. And so I find that by giving myself like freedom to eat the foods that I want and just try to focus on like moderate portions, I find that I'm much more successful in not binge eating. I do find that occasionally I will end up binge eating, but it's mostly because I'm just waited too long to eat and I'm really hungry. And that's, again, kind of pretty rare for me at this point. But like one of the things that I have found that's best for me is to just kind of eat consistently. Like when I start to feel hungry, I should go ahead and eat because what will happen if I get too busy or like I just didn't eat enough at a particular meal and I go into a certain meal like starving, I will absolutely eat everything but the kitchen sink. And when I do that, I also usually feel like crap after too, which is really the reason that I care about it, if I'm being honest, because I don't feel like feeling like garbage. I have GERD, so um, I have like acid reflux issues, and so it's important for me that I not eat too quickly and just like overeat. So for that reason, I don't run into it too often anymore. But I have videos on that I can link for you in a card if that would be helpful as well. Um, can you do a what I eat in a day? And do you try to get 10,000 steps? Yes, I can do a what I eat in a day. I'm just, so yes, I can do a what I eat in a day. I don't have a problem doing a what I eat in a day. The problem is in the current season that I'm in, things with a young kid, like I feel like what I eat in the day would be very chaotic and would feel very chaotic, which is why I don't do them. But I can try to find a way to do that once my son is back at school and he's home for a larger portion of the day. I might be able to kind of work out a way to do that, or maybe on a weekend. Anyway, the point is, yes, I can do those. My food stuff really isn't super interesting, though, if I'm being honest. If you watch any of my other food content, you already pretty much know what I eat because I don't have a lot of variety. I like to eat a lot of the same things because it's easy. I know what the macros are. So, but yes, I will try to get that on the schedule in the coming weeks and months for you guys. But again, one of my kind of issues with the what I eat in a day, like I get it. I get why people like those. The challenge for me is I feel like a what I eat in a day is like, well, that's what you should eat too. And I don't think that's necessarily true. Everybody is different. And, I'm not special. What I eat in a day is just what I eat in a day. And so maybe if you're using it as a meal idea thing, that's great. But I think the problem more often than not is that people like use that and be like, well, that's exactly what I need to eat in a day. And, that's not necessarily true. Does that make sense? Okay. And then to answer your second question, do you try to get 10,000 steps? No, that's the short answer right now. I feel like 10,000 steps has not been a priority for me right now. And my son is, well, he's been in this age for a while. Like, he's not really like a go on walks for extended period of time kid. And I'm just not in the mood to carry him back from somewhere. So I try to just like organically get as many steps as I can. Usually my days are like 8,000 steps anyway, just from all the moving around that I'm doing, playing with him, getting up and down, getting him snacks, sort of typical stuff. So, I try to just get what I can. And I probably will, as I said, once my son is in school more and I have more just me time, I'm probably going to try to do a better job with that. My husband has a walking pad that we still haven't set up, and I'll probably try to prioritize walking on that some. And I think there will probably be a video in there somewhere once I do that. But I think it's great. I don't think it's the only way, but I do think it's great. And for some people, that is their movement, and I don't have a problem with that either. But for me, I don't do great with the 10,000 steps. Um, just, just the season of life that I'm in, quite frankly. Um, Someone asked for my reading list. I see this name a lot. Hi, it's great to see you. I see your name a lot. Oh, you're on here twice. Okay. I'll answer both your questions at the same time. My reading list. Okay, so here's the thing about me. I have like one giant reading list that I'm always just sort of like adding to. I don't really have like specific books. I'm like, yes, I must read this next, but I am in like a psychological thrillers group on Facebook. And honestly, like, I kind of just jump from thing to thing when I see somebody's like, yeah, this is a great book. I read it. Um, I'm a big fan of the words today. Big fan of the Fourth Monkey Killer series. That was a terrific series by J.D. Barker. Loved that. I'm a big Frida McFadden fan. You love her or you hate her. So those are kind of the books that I tend to read. But I do also like to read like more like serious fiction, like feel good kind of books on occasion. And then, of course, I like to read and listen to stuff that's like health, wellness, fitness, stuff like that too. So I don't have like a specific like running reading list. Right now, I'm reading a book. What am I even reading? Um, I do read every single night before I go to sleep. I'm currently reading a book called Tiny Daggers. Um, so far, so good. I can update you guys on that if you care. Yeah. And then favorite TV shows, cartoons, anime, LOL. So my favorite TV shows are Forever in a Day, Gilmore Girls. That's my comfort show. That's the show I watch when I'm sad. That's the show I watch when I'm bored. If I'm not watching YouTube, I'm probably watching Gilmore Girls or Friends. Although I haven't really been able to watch Friends in the same way that I used to binge it prior to the passing of Matthew Perry. It just hits different now. Like the fact that he's gone, like as a person, I don't know. Like I can't watch and see that show quite in the same way that I used to. See, if you agree with me, let me know. I'll be curious to know what you think. But I do love Friends. It was a great show. I reference it a lot. So, yeah, Gilmore Girls. Um, and I don't really watch cartoons. My son watches like a few cartoons. I've been introducing him to some of like my old favorites from like Nickelodeon, like the Wild Thornberrys, the Rugrats, stuff like that. But I don't really watch cartoons now. Um, and then I don't know anything about anime. It's just not my thing. But I always appreciate you guys asking these great questions. Okay, we'll circle back to that one. How does your faith influence your fitness journey and your YouTube channel? Have you considered this as a topic for a video? That is a great question. Very thoughtful question. So what's weird. I guess I'm going to share a little bit of my testimony here. But what's weird is that when I started, it didn't. In my mind, they were kind of completely separate. I think motherhood and like dealing with the postpartum depression and anxiety brought me back to God. Like that's how God used that to bring me back to him. And one of the things that I'm learning about, fitness and my fitness in particular is that like that just it's part for me, it has become sort of like part of my worship. Hopefully that makes sense. And so for me, like it didn't used to be, but it very much is now. Often that's the time I will listen to like worship music and things like that. And so for me, it really is like sort of part of my worship, and also has really become like my awareness of some of the things that God wants for me. He's showing me that through like fitness. Does that? Hopefully that makes sense. I know that feels a little bit broad, but the short version is when I got started, it really didn't. But I realized the longer I do this, the the reality of the connectedness that really is truly there for me. And I haven't really considered a topic for the video. I don't know that anybody's like super interested in hearing more than that, but if you are, please feel free to leave me a comment. We can have a conversation about that. I'm happy to do that. I don't know if that's something that people are interested in. My favorite and least favorite Caroline Girvan programs. This is a great one. But it's hard to answer because, quite frankly, if Caroline makes it, I like it. So, I mean, that's not like exclusively true. But for the most part, like I like most Caroline Girvan programs. I really truly haven't found a program that I didn't like. When I think about like her library and I think about like all the programs I've done so far from her, I think probably the my brain just stopped working. The pyramid the pyramid training. I think that one's only like a week or 2 weeks, but I think that was my least favorite. But it's really because I don't like that style of training. So that's probably why it's not my favorite. But I genuinely, I mean, they're all good. They're all different. They're all good. I mean, if you've seen my Caroline videos, which I'm assuming you have because you're asking me this question, you know, I there's a lot to love. My very favorite program, I think I've said this before and I'll say it again, it will probably always be Epic Heat. Epic Heat has a really special place in my heart because it was the very first workout program from Caroline Girvan that I ever completed. And y'all, I felt so proud, as any of you should, when you complete a Caroline program. And like, it was hard and it was tough. And sometimes it really sucked, but I was just so proud to have accomplished that. And I really did enjoy the formatting because I've gone back and done it again. And it's just a great series, but also there's a point of pride for me because I feel like that was like the start of like, yes, you finished a program. Now let's go, like let's go smash another one. You know what I mean? And so that like was sort of part of my trajectory. And so that's also why I love Epic Heat so much. But yeah. What are my thoughts on Halle Berry's fitness routine? I don't know a darn thing about Halle Berry's fitness routine, but I can look it up. One of the problems I've run into is I used to really like making the like fitness stuff around different celebrities and stuff, but since this whole like rise in Ozempic and it seems like all the celebs are taking it, um, I feel like it's really hard to navigate that now because it feels like every cool like weight loss story you hear is more about like, oh well, they took a GLP-1 rather than they actually like did some stuff. So there's not content there anymore, if that makes sense. So I can certainly look into it. Hello, where'd my light go? Um, so I can certainly look into that for you if that's something that you want me to cover. Just let me know in a comment. Let me know if you have interest in a Halle Berry specific video. Please let me know in a comment. All right, and then finally, my last question: my opinions on microdosing GLP-1 for weight loss. So that is again a great question. It's a hard question to answer because here's the thing about a GLP-1. Okay, so I am not a person. I'm a you do you boo kind of person. Okay, so like if you're not bothering me, do what you want. My big concern about GLP-1s, just overarchingly, is that I feel like people are using it who don't need it, and they're like doing it to lose like the last few pounds and things like that, as opposed to people who like actually need it for medical purposes or like diabetics and things like that. And so it concerns me that we're sort of just using something that we don't really know the long-term impacts of. Um, as just like kind of casually. And now there's a pill form, which don't even get me started on that. So, I don't have a problem with people using a GLP-1 if they want to, if that's what feels right for them, or maybe they feel like they've tried other things, like I can think of a myriad of reasons why it might be appropriate for someone to try and use a GLP-1. The microdosing thing, I don't know a ton about. I've heard like various like different influencers and stuff talk about microdosing, but I don't really have a fully educated opinion on it because again, I've never done it. And so I haven't attempted to do much in the way of research, but I get the impression it's kind of like getting a little bit of the benefits of it without like experiencing all the full symptoms. And again, so my take on that really kind of would be the same as if if you had like a GLP-1. So I think, again, it's to each their own, really, but I don't really have like a fully educated opinion on it. I don't, like I said, I don't love that we're normalizing GLP-1, because I think we really need, if we're going to normalize GLP-1, then we need to make sure that we're normalizing GLP-1 to go with a healthy meal plan, with a fitness program, so you don't end up losing all your muscle mass. Because when you're not, when you're taking a GLP-1 and you're losing weight, you're also simultaneously losing muscle mass if you're not building it. And after a certain age, you're already gradually losing muscle mass over time anyway. And so that scares me. So, that's kind of where it is. I mean, again, I'm not here to pass judgment. I don't know everybody's story. I don't have interest in it. I feel like, even though I'm not, I could probably use to lose a few more pounds, and things like that. But I don't see myself microdosing. But again, I don't have an issue. It's just really a matter of, I just say be careful, y'all. Like, just with any and all of it, when you're talking about putting something and injecting something in your body, you don't know the long-term consequences of. Like, I don't know. Just be careful. Okay, that's all. Hopefully these questions don't get me in a bunch of hot water, but if you loved it here and you somehow are watching this video and you're not subscribed, I'd love if you would subscribe and let me be your non-judgy mom friend who comes alongside you to help you reach your goals. Bye, friends.